With the Vallis Undermind update, we have received 4 new augments. Augments for Lavos, Xaku, Styanax, and Gyre. We're going to be going over all of the augments in one video, give some tips and builds and so on, so you can gauge if you like them enough to build for it. Hopefully after this video you can decide which ones you like, but if I can tell you one thing, there is a very special augment in this video that might change many build options for many different frames in the future, and I think you will enjoy it. Let's begin, shall we? Starting off with the Lingering Transmutation augment for Lavos. Firstly, let's talk about how nice the deluxe skin for him looks. It is absolutely stunning. I am a huge fan of Lavos, and I've said this many times in previous videos and so on. I always talk about how amazing Lavos is, and that is mainly because of his Balance Formation augment, which makes you one of the best and most broken weapon platform frames in the game. And the simple fact that ability duration increases your status duration for your status effects with his kit. You can change your elements on the fly by imbuing your abilities. He has built-in crowd control, good survivability, and the power to nuke everything that stands in front of you. Overall, Lavos is extremely unique compared to other Warframes and offers you a playstyle that you don't really get often. This is why I love and appreciate Lavos. But with the Lingering Transmutation augment that has just arrived, he has become even stronger. There are a few ways to go about playing Lavos. The 2 main ways are a caster playstyle focusing on casting abilities to nuke enemies, and then the other way is making use of Balance Formation for a weapons platform. But how about both? This augment description is a little misleading though. It's not explained very well. When you cast Transmutation Probe, it will travel a set distance. When it reaches max range, it will then return back to where you casted the ability initially, and will stay there for the duration that you have modded for. You can return the probe early by tapping the ability again, and if you tap it once more while it's busy returning or it's lingering around, it will remove the probe, forcing the normal cooldown. This doesn't seem so crazy, right? Well, here's the thing. Transmutation Probe by itself reduces the cooldown of your other abilities, which is affected by ability efficiency. But this effect will only work once per enemy per Transmutation Probe cast. Lingering Transmutation allows you to apply this cooldown reduction multiple times on the same enemy. It forgoes that restriction entirely. This means you can become the ultimate caster Lavos, which I am a massive fan of. Let's say you have 10 enemies that are currently affected by Transmutation Probe. With the augment, that means all 10 of those enemies are reducing the cooldown of your abilities by 1.5 seconds per tick. You can now chain abilities like a Mad Alchemist shredding through enemies and so on, but the only problem is having enemies alive long enough for you to apply the Transmutation Probe. This probe will deal electricity damage as ticks of damage, and every time it ticks, it will reduce your cooldowns. But you can nuke so much with your weapons and also your fourth ability that honestly, it's a struggle to actually keep the enemies alive long enough for Transmutation Probe to kind of proc. A great way around this is to actually use Nautilus or the Cyotid with Lavos so that you can pretty much pull enemies into the bubble, and then you can get the benefits of reducing your cooldown for your abilities. That way you can kind of get the feel for the augment a bit better. I would also recommend stacking lots of range with this augment to kind of help you hit more enemies before they die. You can even pair this with Balance Formation if you like to mix both playstyles together. Here is my main Lavos build now. You can swap out Arcane Blessing for Arcane Impetus, which will allow you to stack strength and efficiency, ultimately allowing your probes to reduce your cooldown by even more. If you want to lean fully into the whole caster playstyle only, you can drop Balance Formation and go Streamline, or you can go for more duration if you'd like. I would recommend running 1 or 2 Tile Forged casting speed shards for Lavos. Something that I just threw together while I was making this video when trying this augment is actually making use of green shards that increase your toxin damage. This works very well with using caster Lavos because you can actually have a primer to apply as many status effects as possible. You can then imbue Catalyze with Toxin, which will then apply juiced Toxin procs, and of course the Archon shards take over, meaning you delete everything. Catalyze's damage will scale with the amount of status effects that are applied on enemies when you cast, hence why Cedo, his signature weapon, is so perfect with Lavos. This is over the top, by the way. Lately I've been enjoying Toxin scaling and so on, so that's why I said, try out the Toxin shards. You do not need them. Blast imbued Catalyze, Gas imbued Catalyze, anything like that was scaled with status effects will just nuke enemies regardless. It was just an option. Overall, the new Lingering Transmutation Probe augment is amazing for casting your abilities more often. If you are a fan of this playstyle for Lavos, you will definitely welcome this new augment. If you have not played Lavos before, I absolutely recommend you take a look at my guide on him because man, this frame is just beautiful and he is great. And he has received a deluxe skin, which is also pretty cool. And that covers Lavos. Let's move on to Xaku. Xaku's new augment is called Untime Rift. Now Xaku is quite a powerful frame already. Xaku's fourth ability is called Vast Untime. This ability breaks you out of your shell, creating a wide explosion that deals void damage, slows enemies, applies damage vulnerability, and you gain 75% dodge chance. Untime Rift will create a rift portal that spawns above you when you cast Vast Untime. Enemies that are affected by void status effects, which is usually applied from Zarta's Whisper, your first ability. I think we all know what Zarta's Whisper is at this point. Void damage creates a bubble that's a bullet attractor, creates extra instances of damage per instance of damage dealt. It's pretty strong. The Untime Rift portal will double the debuffs applied by Vast Untime and keeps up the existing void status effect. This means when the portal latches onto an enemy because it's affected by the void status effect, they will be granted 100% damage vulnerability as opposed to the 50, and the slow percentage you have is doubled. Overall, this augment is a nice addition to the kit entirely. When you add in Grasp of Lock, our favorite auto turret ability, the Lost with Gaze for armor stripping, it's pretty damn good. Untime Rift is definitely worth it if you want to min-max your build a bit more, but there are some drawbacks here. This portal is stationary. In order for you to move it, you have to recast Vast Untime, which is okay, that's not a problem. And while yes, I do think it is a nice improvement, it's not a massive increase, and it's not super game-changing for Xaku. It's still very good and it's definitely worth using, but it's not like, oh my gosh, break the game, which is perfectly okay, by the way. Not everything has to nuke Warframe in an instant, and we are so spoiled with nuking things and so on. It's actually getting pretty crazy lately. It scales very well with range, which gives us some brownie points as well. I personally think that this is something that I will be using for Xaku, but it's not needed. Here is the build that I used to test this augment, focusing on good range and good strength. Definitely think you should give it a try, especially if you want to keep up Zarta's Whisper's bubble more often. This augment will just help you with that drastically. Then we move on to Styanax. Now Styanax has a new augment called Tharros Lethality. This mod is for Tharros Strike, his second ability that pushes enemies away and armor strips them. Enemies that are hit by Tharros Strike will take increased critical damage by 100%, scaling with ability strength. The critical damage bonus is doubled for spear guns, which I don't know why this was added, but I guess because this augment does go in conjunction with Styanax's passive, which states Styanax's critical chance is increased with his shields and doubles for spear guns. So I guess it does make sense. They go hand in hand here. The only spear gun that I personally have used is the Tenet Ferox. I haven't used any of the other ones. I can't personally comment on the others, but the Tenet Ferox is actually pretty powerful with this, so I think you should give it a try, especially with its ult fire. Strength scales this augment pretty well, and if you take into account the fact that Tharros Strike armor strips enemies, it's not a bad augment at all. If you're using Styanax as a weapons platform, this is a pretty good buff. He has always been a very good offensive support frame, offering you and your team a lot. The nice thing with this augment is if you pair an AoE based crit weapon with his first ability to pull enemies in, push them away with Tharros Strike, and then you could just reap the benefits from the increased crit damage. Yeah, not bad at all. Definitely worth going for if you want to give it a try for gun buffing Styanax and so on, or just throwing it into your build. This is a setup that I went for. You can also use Intrepid Stand too if you wanted to gain Overguard, but yeah, that's up to you. I have put it here, but you don't actually need it. Hi, this is FutureFlo here. While I was writing the script, I did think that this augment was pretty good and so on, but there is one key thing that I completely forgot. This is Styanax's Helminth ability, meaning this augment is actually unreal. This allows any Warframe to have the ability to armor strip enemies and give you a fat increase in critical damage. I don't know how this flew past my head, but yeah, this augment is solid. I mean, Harrow with this augment and his Covenant abilities crit bonus would go crazy. The fact that we have this augment opens so many doors for other frames and synergies. Definitely going to be something that I'm going to start mentioning in future videos and build guides and so on, because it is a great addition to increase your damage and also have armor stripping for any Warframe. So yeah, this is pretty good. Definitely the best augment that has arrived with the new update. And finally, the last augment is for Gyre. Gyre's new augment is called Reverse Rotorswell. It's definitely not nearly as good as her other augments in terms of damage, but I will say it is a fantastic option to sort out Gyre's survivability issues. I'm just going to leave this clip on in the background while I talk about this. Rotorswell is Gyre's fourth ability packed with a bunch of features. Cause a spinning electric field. Anytime your ability crits or you crit with a weapon, you will discharge a lightning bolt that will chain from that enemy to other nearby enemies too. With the augment Cathode Grace, this ability does pretty well at melting enemies. Now, the new augment Reverse Rotorswell states the following: 35% of damage received is redirected towards the instigator as electricity damage. Remember, when enemies take an electricity proc, they will be stunned and chained to nearby enemies, ultimately crowd controlling them. This is scaled with ability strength, which will further increase the damage redirection stat. But here is the thing: as enemies hit you, you will have a chance to proc electricity on them. Scaling strength will increase the status chance, meaning as enemies hit you, they get stunned, and also you can cap the damage redirection stat at 75%. I'm not sure if the status chance stat of this augment is capped or has a cap. I'm not aware of this. Either way, you have an okay chance of proccing electricity on the enemy that is currently hitting you, especially with the higher fire rates and so on enemies. It's going to cause a lot of crowd controlling, which just ultimately leads to you being much tankier because enemies can't hit you as much. However, overguarded enemies are still a big problem here. Its pure function is to redirect 75% of the damage dealt to you back to them, which is great. You know, like I said earlier, they deal damage to you, they deal damage to themselves. Great. But the thing is, the majority of Gyre's kit already procs electricity so often, it's a bit weird as to why they would add an augment like this. Look, it really does add an extra layer of defense for Gyre, making her a lot tankier. She can be quite a squishy frame and sometimes can require many external buffing or subsumes to help her stay alive, but slapping on this augment will help you drastically nowadays. I still don't see why I would use this over the other augments though. But again, I am very accustomed to Gyre being a nuke frame or a very powerful gun buffing frame, so I like to adopt the whole kill them before they kill you to survive. I do highly recommend you give this augment a go to see for yourself and kind of gauge if you like it. This is the build that I've used for the background here. You won't be nuking enemies with this damage redirection, but you'll be stunning them a lot, which is great. And that covers all of the new augments that have arrived with the Vallis Undermind update. The Lavos and Styanax augment is by far the best of the four. Styanax's Tharros Lethality augment is more accessible to slap on any crit-based Warframe or just any synergy you want. Definitely something I'm going to be using a lot more because damn, it's pretty good. Lavos just feels a lot better if you're focusing on your caster playstyle. Gyre's augment is, yeah, maybe I haven't discovered everything with it just yet. Maybe there is going to be a broken synergy that I don't know about, but for now, it's not that great. Xaku's augment is also just a nice addition to the overall kit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you agree with me, if you like one that I don't like or anything like that. And also let me know if you'd like me to make a full Styanax guide since I have not played this frame since he released. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys are enjoying all the videos that I've been pumping out. I'm trying to cover all of the topics as quickly as I can, and I am tired. I need sleep. Anyways, a massive shout out to our channel members. Thank you guys for your support. I cannot thank you enough. It really helps me out and helps me pay the bills. Thank you so much. I will see you all in the next video.